Hey everyone, Byron once again here to testify for Jesus Christ. Last night, possibly the night before last, this began, but I began to focus in on the word narrow as it pertains to a particular scripture. And I want to read the scripture right now so that you'll know what I'm talking about. In Matthew 7:13 and 14, Jesus Christ makes a statement. He says, "Enter ye in at the strait gate, for wide is the gate, and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and many there be which go in therein. Because strait is the gate, and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it." Now I want to just look at the word narrow, and my purpose behind this is to give an explanation of the origins of the word in the Greek that was used uh, and replaced by narrow in the English, because it's going to give a very, very good explanation to this. First and foremost, I want to just refer to where Paul talked one time, and he talked about expanding our comprehension. Now I'm going to read this. In Ephesians 3, starting verse 17, Paul writes, "That Christ may dwell in your hearts by faith, that ye, being rooted and grounded in love, may be able to comprehend with all the saints what is the breadth and length and depth and height, and to know the love of Christ, which passeth knowledge, that ye may be filled with all fullness of God." So when he described the comprehension, he wants you to understand the breadth, the width of it, the length of it, the depth of it, the height of it. He just wants you to understand it all, to comprehend all the stuff. And that, to me, is something that I use sometimes in conversations. I want to know the depth and breadth and length and height of all this stuff. So I want to just grab the word in the Greek that's used here in this thing to define, to expound on what is the narrow way. What is narrow? And the Greek word, it says it's akin to a word that means a rut or a worn track, a path. So narrow would be the root of the word that's used, would refer to a path. And it makes sense within the context of the scripture. But that is the root word that's used to form the Greek word that narrow is in place of. Let me show you what narrow means. It means to crowd, literally or figuratively, to afflict, narrow, throng, suffer, tribulation, trouble. You might be sitting there going, "Whoa, what are you saying?" Well, I want to just read other verses that's got the same exact word in the Greek that was used to come up, the English word narrow was used to replace it in this verse. I want to just read these other scriptures. This will help give you the depth and breadth and length and height of this. Mark 3:9, the word throng is used, and it says, "And he spake to his disciples that a small ship would wait on him because of the multitude, lest they should throng him." So he's saying, have a ship available before these people start whipping me. That's the same word, throng, same Greek word is used for narrow way. And narrow is the way. Same word used for narrow and throng. 2 Corinthians 1:6. "And whether we be afflicted," afflicted is the same Greek word. Let me see if I got it pulled up. If I got it pulled up, I'll actually be able to Thalibo. Thalibo is like the Greek word. Strong's word 2346. Thalibo. Anyway, that was another usage of the word. And whether we be afflicted it is for, this is 2 Corinthians 1:6. And whether we be afflicted, it is for our consolation and salvation, which is effectual in the enduring of the same sufferings which we also suffer. And whether we be comforted, it is our consolation and salvation. 2 Corinthians 4:8. We are troubled. Troubled is the word. Phlebo is the Greek word used. We are troubled on every side, yet not distressed. We are perplexed, but not in despair. Going on, 2 Corinthians 7:5. For when we were come into Macedonia, our flesh had no rest, but we were troubled on every side. Without were fightings, within were fears. Troubled was the word. This particular sentence right here, suffer tribulation, is the Greek word phlebo. I know I'm not saying that right, but that's what it looks like it would sound like. Was used to come up with suffer tribulation in this one. 1 Corinthians 3:4. For verily, when we were with you, we told you before that we should suffer tribulation, even as it came to pass, and you know. 2 Thessalonians 1:6, the word trouble in this one. Seeing it is a righteous thing for God to recompense tribulation to them that trouble you. So you can see, man, on the narrow path, it's a way that you go, and it's well traveled, but it's a way of trouble, affliction, tribulation. And there's scripture, and somebody probably can help me out in the comments, man, and I may come up with it myself, but there's scripture that says, some people will, when trouble comes, some people will fall off the way. This way that we're going is not easy, man. If we're doing this right, there's going to be trouble. There's going to be affliction. There's going to be tribulation. There's going to be problems because they didn't like Jesus. And if you're representing Jesus the way we should, they're not going to like you. That's just the bottom line. That is the way that is narrow. That's it. 2 Thessalonians 1:7. And to you who are troubled, rest with us. Troubled, again, is the word. 1 Timothy 5:10, the word used is afflicted for phlebo. Well reported of for good works. If she had brought up children, if she had lodged strangers, if she had washed the saints' feet, if she have received the afflicted, if she have diligently followed every good work. There you go. Hebrews 11:37, afflicted. They were stoned, they were sawn asunder, they were tempted, they were slain with the sword, they wandered about in sheepskins and goatskins, being destitute, afflicted, tormented. Hebrews 11 is a great place to go. If you want to know what walking the walk is, read Hebrews 11 as it pertains to what I just read. Because we're talking about the great cloud of witnesses and people that, came before us and all that stuff. I'm going to tell you, as I was putting this together, I got absolutely pissed off at people that walk up and say, you're not going to go through tribulation. Come on, man. Come on, man. They got a ESPN's got this thing where the guy does something really stupid and they highlight it on the newsreel and then they say, come on, man. You people that are telling folks you're not going to go through this tribulation. Look at the word tribulation. It's not wrath. Tribulation is tribulation. Wrath is wrath. Sometimes you people say, we're not going to go through the tribulation because we will not be subject to God's wrath or suffer God's wrath. Duh, you can't mix the English language like that. Either you're talking about tribulation or you're talking about wrath. Which one are you talking about? If you're talking about the tribulation in which the Antichrist is going to be involved with, and Jesus Christ will slay at the brightness of his coming, as described in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, I think, or maybe 4, that's tribulation. That's not wrath. It's tribulation. And for those of us who have grown up in a comfortable pew in churches and things like that, to where we wonder, well, every time I get fired up for Jesus, it's like I have a plague. That's the narrow way. That's the narrow way. You know? When you get fired up for Jesus and suddenly people start fleeing from you in the United States, that's the shunning, because you're on the narrow way. And it's going to get worse. It's going to get to troubled on every side. Folks, man, my attempt to just highlight why in the world do we go so long tolerating intolerable things. And one thing is, from day one, we should have been surrounded by oak trees. I'm talking about men that know the scriptures, that understand God. They should deeply rooted in God. Women too. They deeply rooted in God. And they should have been telling us from day one, son, you make this decision for Jesus Christ and you decide to follow him, it's going to be a narrow way. The walls are going to feel like they're closing in on you, because you will suffer trouble, affliction, tribulation. Count the cost. I'm going to be honest with you. Well, if you would, this is what I've heard, if you wouldn't be so gung-ho, people wouldn't alienate you. You wouldn't run into so much problems. Man, come on, man. Come on, man. Shoot, dude, let's follow the Lord with all our heart, all our soul, all our strength. Love the Lord. Let's just go. It's time to go. Shine this light into the darkness. The darkness is here. They're talking about all kind of days of darkness and stuff like that. The darkness is here. They already have darkness shed all over the United States, man. Come on. We got to shine some light back. All right. I'll see you.